Assalamualaikum, my name is Muhammad Arib bin Ahmad TERMIZI. My metric number is 262857. So today we're going to present our group research project, and the title is The Evolution of the Performance of Palm Oil Sector in Malaysia from 1990 until 2020. Assalamualaikum, my name is Muhammad Arib bin Ahmad TERMIZI. So 1.1 is the background of the palm oil sector in Malaysia. So the palm oil has been one of Malaysia's main industry and accounting for most of the country's agricultural output. And Malaysia was responsible for 25.8% of global palm oil output and 34.3% of global palm oil export in 2020. After Indonesia, Malaysia is the world's second largest producer of palm oil. Combine these two countries, they account for more than 80% of global palm oil production. So for the problem statement of this research project is an attempt to discuss the performance of oil palm industry in Malaysia and other factors that might have become the reason for the growth of the oil palm industry, and also describing several factors and analyze the data by implementing the method that have been learned will also be put in this research project. So for the research question is how does other factors, that is independent variable, contribute to the oil palm industry growth and performance in Malaysia from 1990 until 2020. So the next one is research objective. So the first objective is to determine the factors, that is the independent variable, that affecting the palm oil supply. That will be the dependent variable in Malaysia. And the second objective is to identify the relationship between the factors, independent variable, and the palm oil supply, the dependent variable. And the third objective is to analyze the data that have been collected by using different methods. So for the literature review, and in 2013, a research from Kenneth about the economic of Malaysian palm oil industry found that Malaysia relies on the palm oil sector for economic development and prosperity. Industry produce jobs and lowers poverty in rural areas, and the government also assists low-income families in settling oil palm plantation. Another research from the Malaysian Palm Oil Board in 2018 on the topic of oil palm economic performance in Malaysia and research and development progress in 2018 conclude that technology adoption may be seen in many various areas of research, and it is obviously pushing agricultural and process advancement while also ensuring the industry's long-term viability.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is SYAFIQAH binti ZAINORDIN with metric number 278309. Okay, so for this title research, we use 30 observations starting year 1991 to 2020. So to determine the influence dependent variable, which is palm oil supply, and the independent variables, which is interest rate, government expenditure in agriculture, and total area planted with palm oil is significant. Interest rates are predicted to have a negative relationship with palm oil supply. The supply of palm oil is also influenced by government policy. The palm oil supply change is likely to have a positive impact on government spending. When government spending increase, so did the supply of palm oil. The total land area under oil palm agriculture is also projected to have a positive impact on palm oil supply. One of the elements that influence palm oil supply is the availability of state land. The amount of land that can be transferred into palm oil plantation is a factor that will influence palm oil supply. So for the first method for the analysis, we use descriptive statistic, which is descriptive statistic are a set of brief descriptive coefficients that characterize a data set which is might be a subset or a representations of the entire populations. In this result, it has 30 observations, one dependent variable which is palm oil supply, and 3 independent variable which is interest rate, government expenditure, and total area planted. Total area planted with palm oil has the highest mean, which is 4127, and median 4108 values compared to the other variables. Interest rate is the lowest mean, which is 6.70, and median 6.12 among all the variables. The highest maximum value total area planted with 5900157, and the highest minimum values is 2094028. Total is a total area planted also. That is the highest standard deviations is the total area planted, which is 1 to 5 compared to the palm oil supply, interest rate, and government expenditure in agriculture. Okay, so for the second method, we use correlation analysis to measure the relationship between quantitative variable or categorical variables. Correlation is used. In other words, it measures the connections between things. The correlation coefficient is a metric for putting a numerical value on a relationship. The correlations coefficient range is from -1 to +1. The zero in the coefficient range indicates that the variable has no interactions, whereas -1 to +1 indicates an ideal negative or positive correlations. Because the coefficient values are between +1 and positive 0.55, the correlation analysis result in the table suggests that there is a clear correlations between palm oil supply and total area planted. Median correlation is the correlation between palm oil supply with interest rate, where the coefficient values are between negative 0.57 and positive 1. The palm oil supply and total area planted are correlated since the coefficients lies between 0.1 and 1.0, which is 0.55. The correlation between interest rate and government expenditure is a small correlations, which is negative 0.92. So the third method, we diagnosed check for normality. The null hypothesis states that the data did not follow a normal distributions as the probability. Based on the graph 4.3, the value is 0.222, which is less than significant level of 0.05 obtained from Jerkubera, which is the value is 3.0126. So the decision is to reject the null hypothesis because we conclude that the data is not normal. The mean is 14147355, which is more than 0, and the histogram is not in the normal condition. So the slope will either left or right. Okay, for the next diagnosis checking is autocorrelations, which is the hypothesis is H0 is the error term is not correlated regulation time, and H1 is the error term either positively or negatively correlated regulation time. For testing this autocorrelation, we usually use Durbin-Watson statistic. For under perfect positive autocorrelations, the error always equal to 0. Meanwhile, for under perfect negative autocorrelations, the error upside, that means is equal to 4. As a result, estimated test statistic values closer to 0 to 4 indicate the presence of autocorrelations in the data. The p-value for the F statistic test is 0.00 as shown in the table 4.4. At the 5% significant level, we conclude that the null hypothesis is rejected. So the last one is multicollinearity. So when the assumptions is violated, the result is multicollinearity. When all the independent variables are uncorrelated with each other, so there is no multicollinearity. Perfect multicollinearity and imperfect multicollinearity is the two different forms of multicollinearity. All variables have VIF values greater than 1 according to table 4.5. So we conclude that all factors indicate the presence of multicollinearity issues. So interest rate and total area planted have a VIF of less than 10. So the level of collinearity between variables is rather low. Multicollinearity is perfect if the degree of relationship among the independent variable is 1, because no regressions estimate can be conducted in this case. So it is difficult to see the influence of each independent variable on the dependent variable independently. So that's all from me. Thank you.
So the conclusion about this research project is that by concluding the analysis, every independent variable in the project research should be used perfectly to utilize the supply of the oil palm in Malaysia. And based on the finding of the OLS estimate, it can be concluded that at the 50% significant level, the three independent variables, that is interest rates, government spending on agriculture, and the total land area, are significant in the model palm oil supply. So that's all from our groups. Thank you.